Welcome again to my crypto channel, where I'm sharing an in-depth interview with the creator of Drip and the Animal Farm, Forex Shark. Many people find Forex a mysterious guy. He has never shown his face on camera and does not have any plans to do so. Is that something to be worried about? I personally don't care if someone wants to stay anonymous and work behind the scenes. Nobody knows who the creator of Bitcoin is, or who started PancakeSwap, and still millions of people are using it every day. And exposing yourself is not a guarantee that you are trustworthy. Anyone can buy a fake ID card, and get a KYC. There are several examples of famous developers who scammed their users. Until this day, Forex has a track record that speaks for itself. He has been creating successful projects for several years and made many millionaires. Take out some time, grab a drink and listen to what he has to say in this revealing AMA, and make up your own mind about the lead developer of Drip. I have added the timestamps to all the questions below, so you can easily skip to the content you like. Let's give the word to Forex now.
I've been working as an investor both in real estate and traditional markets for about 10 years. I got into cryptocurrency in around 2012, and that is because there was a online gaming site that I used to use that lost their payment processors, and they were based outside of the US, and they had several methods you could use to fund the account, and one of them was Bitcoin. And I didn't know what Bitcoin was. I remember looking and thinking, oh, $14 for this one coin. I felt like, oh, this should be less than $1. Like, what's going on? But it was the cheapest way to fund the account. The other methods were like use a credit card, and they charge you, I can't remember, it's been so long, but it was something like, 10% or 20%, or do a wire transfer, and that took days and also was a fairly hefty charge. Or you could do Bitcoin. It was basically instant and free. So I chose Bitcoin, even though I didn't know what it was, because basically I was just using it as a quick medium of exchange. It wasn't something I planned on holding. I bought the $14 worth of Bitcoin. I bought about $500 worth, and I used it to fund a game that I was playing at the time, an online game. And I didn't send it all over at once, so I still had a few $100s left in this online wallet. Can't remember the name of it, but it was something like ewallet.com or something like that. And basically it was a third-party payment site that allowed you to use prepaid credit cards or send wire transfers, and they would act as a middleman between other companies that couldn't get payment processing for whatever reason. And I kind of forgot about it. And then a couple months later, I was watching the news and they were talking about Bitcoin, and Bitcoin had broken over $100 and it was doing all this stuff. It was on some mainstream news channel. And at the time, I was a little bit interested in trading stock options. I had been doing it. At the time, I was young, so it was more of a hobby, but also something that I saw as being something I wanted to do as my full-time income, but it was also something that I was still trying to learn. And it was just, at the time, I was doing pretty small trades, stock options, basically just investing in projects or companies that I thought made good products, basically. And I was probably watching CNBC at the time when I heard about Bitcoin being over $100, and I remembered, oh, Bitcoin's over $100. I have some of that. I went to go to the website, and the website was just gone. Whoever was running the website, once it broke over $100, they just took everybody's Bitcoin and ran. And that's when I realized I need to learn more about Bitcoin, because it just went up like 10 times in value. And I thought it was expensive at $14, so why is it over $100? What's going on? And I also learned the importance of keeping your own private keys and what cryptocurrency is all about, not having to rely on third parties like the wallet I used. Then I just really got heavy into learning about and investing into Bitcoin. And at the same time, I was realizing that the Forex market allowed for a lot of the same leverage opportunities as stock options without a lot of the traps that are built into the options market and without a lot of the regulation. So I started migrating over to currency trading anyways in my traditional market. investments. I was trading Forex, I was trading Bitcoin until about 6 years ago when I had a few friends asking me about how to trade, and they saw that at that point I was basically living off of trading. Bitcoin was doing super well. This was in the bull market that ride up from $100 to 20,000. It was in the later years of that before the big bear market came. And I was also trading traditional markets. I had a really good Forex system that I still use to this day that I was making pretty consistent returns from. So I started this Discord group about 6 years ago, and I just had some friends involved and they told their friends, and I figured it would be a good opportunity just for me to use it as a trade journal, and then if that can help some people out, that would be cool too. And they invited friends, and next thing you know, I had a couple hundred people in the group, and I was really only focusing on traditional markets, specifically Forex and Bitcoin, until about 2.5 years ago when a friend of mine introduced me to a group that was doing pre-sales for ERC20 projects. And I realized how profitable it can be if you get into a group that has access to pre-sales from reputable and trustworthy dev. I started doing that. I started doing these pre-sales, and I'm someone that when I get into something, I get into it 110%. So for me, if I'm going to be trading ERC20 contracts, I'm also going to learn about how the contracts work, solidity, how the whole network and the blockchain is structured. And I really started focusing on the coding aspect and development aspect of it. And because I was a successful trader that also understood the development and coding aspects of it, I started kind of making a name for myself in the space and connecting directly with some of these developers that were doing pre-sale. I eventually started advising them specifically on their pre-sale distribution and handling their pre-sale, and also their contracts, and from a development aspect, focusing mostly on their launch phase. So pre-sale, the first couple weeks of launch, and the contracts is what I was mostly advising projects. I was doing this, raising pre-sale funds on my Discord server. We've had dozens and dozens of raises for many projects that I advised. We kind of set ourselves apart and started growing very quickly because I was basically the only group that was doing these pre-sale raises and wasn't charging my community a fee to get into my pre-sales. And the way I was able to do this is because I was monetizing it through charging the development teams for advisory positions and marketing. Because people saw how fair it was that I was giving access to all these deals without charging them, we grew very fast, and I got a pretty large following of people that saw me as someone that understood the space and is also someone that is fair and does things the right way and really looks out for my investors, my community. So about this whole time when I'm advising, I'm having people in my community saying, why don't you launch a token? Why don't you launch a token? Getting on me about it. And I always told them, I don't want to launch a token that is just going to be a flash in the pan and then that's it. You know, we do some big thing for a couple months and then that's it. If I'm going to do something, it has to be right. It has to be something that I can continue to build on top of and develop. It has to be something that has the moral landscape that is with the way that I feel that projects should be ran. And it also has to reward holders and, even more importantly, liquidity providers in a sustainable and substantial way. So when RFI was first launched, which was a project that allowed you to buy the token and earn rewards from the token without the need to stake, I saw this, and the reward was through a tax on transactions, not through inflation. I saw this as a model that I could potentially run with. And some of the reasons why I like this is because you didn't have to rely on third-party contracts. You didn't have to rely on a website or other vectors that could be security risks. The reward system was sustainable because it's coming through tax on transactions. So basically, I didn't tell anybody I was working on it, but I started working on my own contract. The reason why I wasn't telling anybody is because I wanted to be able to develop it, test it, spend as much time as I needed on it without any pressure. That way, if I wasn't feeling it, I could just continue doing whatever I was doing and act like I wasn't even developing anything. Then what I decided to go with was taking the RFI and then making it a deflationary protocol. A burn on each transaction as well. The things that I loved about RFI, but it's also deflationary. I saw it as also a perfect token to build on top of because It's one contract that handles all of it. And you don't have to rely on tying multiple contracts together if you're building on top of it. And also because it's sustainable and it's set up in a way that can reward its holders over the long term without the price bleeding or without there being a point where it can no longer reward holders. So I saw it as something that can be built on for the long term. So I ended up launching REAP, R34P REAP. It ended up doing 870x in the first month. That goes to show you the kind of demand it had for a project that, and the built up demand that I had built up over the years of people waiting for me to make a token. When I finally do, it does 870x in the first month. It did over 100x in the first week, but it did 870x in the first month. And that's it. That's how I got on my path of developing my own tokens. Since then, I've started a DAO group. I've launched multiple other projects. Every project I've launched has in some way tied in my previous projects to continue to cause price appreciation and demand for my previous projects. And this is why I decided to go with something like REAP for my first project, because I knew it was something I could continue to work with and continue to build on, which was important to me, because I didn't want to just build projects and then abandon them like some other devs do. So that's basically where we're at now. That is the short version of a long story that ends up being a, kind of a long explanation, but how else do you cover 10 years getting all the major points? But there's plenty else that I could have mentioned, but that's the story as far as my background, without getting to a lot of other things. I mean, at one point I was the largest Bitcoin for cash vendor in the East Coast of the United States. At one point I had owned a bunch of Bitcoin ATMs that I ended up selling because it ended up being a situation where I realized before I even started deploying them in markets, new regulation had passed where they were forcing people to have money exchangers licenses to set up these ATMs. Thankfully, I bought them knowing that we're not even close to the top yet, so I was able to resell them all for a large profit, so it ended up being a profitable endeavor either way. But yeah, there's so many other things that happened along the way that I could talk about. I worked with some Asian companies, helping them because of their major currency restrictions over there, helping set up some Asian companies with their own cryptocurrency infrastructure, advising them and also working with them on development. And there's so much I've done. I was doing that before I got into the pre-sales with Bitcoin specifically. So yeah, there's so many other things I could talk about, but we could be here all night. I've been in crypto since 2012. I bought Bitcoin for $14 in 2012. Very shortly after that, I was working with a service implementing Bitcoin payments on their service, like within a year from discovering what Bitcoin was from a sportsbook. Essentially, they lost their payment processors. They needed to be able to onboard capital. I helped them implement a Bitcoin onboarding system. Most of them are gone because either through centralized corruption or through government intervention, government shutting them down, like the Reserve token and the Liberty token. The Liberty token was huge. It was called the Liberty dollar, actually. That was the largest centralized currency that wasn't a fiat currency, or it wasn't a currency that was minted by a state or a country. It was called the Liberty Reserve dollar, and they ended up getting shut down by the government. And actually, the protocol that Satoshi used was greatly influenced by the Liberty dollar. He just made it decentralized in an incredible, genius way. Anyways, after I worked with them, I ended up setting up a market and worked with different markets. And then I started a company in my freshman year of university dealing with Chinese distributors or Chinese producers distributing into the US and around the country. Because of their capital restrictions, we did a bunch of our transactions in Bitcoin. And I had so much Bitcoin that I needed to turn it to fiat, and I was paying large fees to do that. Like at the time, 3 to 5% to do it because it was so early on. And I realized at local Bitcoins, I could set up a vendor account and charge people 3 to 5% instead of paying 3 to 5%. So in 2016, 2017, in the very beginning of early 2018, I was the largest Bitcoin for cash vendor on local Bitcoins, operating in 3 different states. I bought a bunch of Bitcoin ATMs until the federal government shut down the Bitcoin for cash option on local Bitcoins and started cracking down on Bitcoin ATM vendors. So luckily we were still in the bull market. It was right before the 2018 crash. So I was able to resell those Bitcoin ATMs for a profit. And that's when I started focusing on different chains.
and working with different developers, advising them and developing for them. So I've been in it for a long time, basically almost since the start, developing and building on it. And I have my Discord channel, which I started in 2015 maybe, or 2016. And that Discord server is still open. And you can go there, you can see all the projects I raised toward, dozens of projects, big projects, like Block Clout, which is I think the largest crypto social media platform, PokeStarter, MahaDAO, Rio, TrustSwap, dozens and dozens of projects I helped develop, I advise and raise funds for. And this whole time, everybody was telling me, launch a token, launch a token, launch a token. And I was telling them that I'm not going to launch a token until I have something that I think has the incentive structures and the setup that I believe in and that I think I can continue to build on. It will have long time sticking power and reward holders in the right way. Well, first, these projects Ying and Yang and Yin Yang and Icefish and these projects implemented a reflective reward system where a percentage of each transaction is automatically distributed to holders without needing to claim or stake. These early projects like Icefish, Yin Yang, they made a critical error where they only reflected the correct balances in holders and not in the liquidity pool. So it created a situation where the liquidity pool thought there was so many tokens in circulation, and the holders were told there was a lot more tokens in circulation. And it caused a type of inflation where it could be manipulated and drain the liquidity pool. So all these projects kept launching, really innovative, but they weren't doing it right. And then RFI was the first project to do reflective rewards and also have a way to update the liquidity pool. So the reflective rewards are also being updated in the liquidity pool. And when I saw that, I was like, all right, this is big. It's a way to reward holders and incentivize positive actions, buying and holding, and disincentivize selling and price manipulation. So I thought, how can I take this protocol and make it better? And essentially, I took this reflective reward protocol and made it deflationary. That was REAP, and that's my first token I launched was REAP. I didn't tell anybody I was launching REAP. I developed the whole thing, I launched it, and it wasn't until after it launched that I started the group and told everybody. And it did 870x in the first month. It just blew up like crazy. And it's still up a lot. It's still up something like 80x or something. It was actually at all-time highs before the recent crash, which is like over a year after launch, because we continue to add value and utility to it through the pre-sales that are held in the DAO that you only get access if you're a REAP holder. And people will see that. If you follow my projects, you'll notice that whenever I launch a new project, I always integrate my earlier projects to ensure that my earliest investors, the people that have been supporting me from the beginning, are always rewarded from the new projects, and it's never me walking away from my old projects to do something new, leaving those people behind. It's always I'm bringing them up with me, I'm creating new use cases for that project, and you see that with Drip through the implementation of BREAP, right? You need to hold BREAP to unlock downline rewards, and you can expect this with Drip. When I eventually launch a new project, I will ensure that it rewards Drip and my existing projects. As always, the new project onboards a bunch of new people. Those new people get introduced to my old projects, and the new projects give incentive for them to buy my old projects. So my old projects end up growing with my new projects, and it's never a thing of moving on and leaving the old projects. It's always I'm building on top of it and building the ecosystem. And that's always been important to me. I never build projects unless I'm somehow building up the existing ecosystem. My DAO, speaking of a track record of success, we've never had a pre-sale in my DAO that hasn't done over 20x in the first month. It's never happened. The trade-off for that is we've only had a handful of pre-sales there. And that's because I really do my due diligence in deciding which projects get to use the DAO or not. And if there's any kind of thing that I think could be a hiccup along the road, I just don't use them because it's not worth it. I'd rather have less but make it quality. That way the people that get involved, yeah, we might only get 3 or 5 deals in the year, but if you're doing 20x, 50x, 100x on them, and you know you're going to do something like that on them, it's infinitely better, right? You can invest confidently, you can invest larger, and you don't have to worry about getting rugged or scammed, or you have maybe the most scammy and worst projects in the market industry, if you want to call it. But then it also has the best projects, the most decentralized, the highest returning, you know, the most valuable projects ever, right? And it has such a wide range. Yeah, we're always going to have a bunch of scams. We're always gonna have a bunch of scammers, and we're always gonna have people that want to take gambles. But if people focus on buying projects with solid mechanics, good use cases, devs with some sort of track record, and they hodl, they don't try to trade it, they don't try to get in and out, in and out, in and out, you know, you'll make money in this space. I wouldn't want to be working in any other space. I had a opportunity to work for a trust managing Forex accounts for millionaires, people with 9 figures and higher. I ended up essentially not doing that and deciding to just focus on develop and freedom for myself more, not having people that I work for specific. I don't work for the investors of my projects. I feel like I'm working with them. They're part of my project, part of a team. I don't have someone that I'm specifically answering to, do this, do that, come in at this time, come in at that time. It's like the internet, you know, you can only do so much to try to control it, and there's always going to be people that can get around it. It's going to be the same decentralized network. They can really try to put the boot on us, as you said, but there'll always be people working. I'm always going to be someone that's going to be working against them and trying to get around it, and working in a gray area, doing what we have to do to make it happen. Scammers make it easy on them, right? The regulators, the people that want to stop this and control it, the scammers are what make it easier for them to have an excuse to shut us down. So they're not doing us any favors. And the thing about scammers is they have more money to put towards marketing and promoting. If you're not going to put any of your money into real development and really putting it back into the use cases and back into your investors, you have all that capital to put into marketing and promoting. So that's why all the most garbage projects get the most promotion. But Drip has mechanisms in itself that allow for people to be rewarded for doing self-promotion. So we've been able to kind of get around that in some sense. And it's the reason why I'm on YouTube right now, probably. A lot of people, when they join the project, you were saying you need to get a buddy. Some people, for whatever reason, have sort of, I guess, maybe a selfish type mentality where they think, I don't want to join this other person's team. I'm giving him money, stuff like this. I'm going to join the dev wallet. The dev wallet doesn't do team airdrop. If you want team airdrops, if you want people that are looking out for you, you're way better off joining a team, especially the team of someone who's going to be creating content, being active. So if you're thinking about joining Drip, I would join his team, right? He's going to take care of you. You know, you look out for people, you end up growing your team, they end up compounding, which gives you more bonuses in the future, and it works out. I'm East Coast, but I'm kind of traveling, so I'm not in one state at any time or always in the States. So with BREAP, well, I'll mention a couple things. So I'd like to just give a quick rundown of the game we're working on, and I'll talk about the importance of holding BREAP as well. First of all, BREAP is a project that I launched about 6 months ago, and something you'll notice from me is whenever I launch a new project, I'm never walking away from my other projects. I'm building onto the ecosystem, and I'm allowing new use cases and new opportunities for the people that have invested into my previous projects. And BREAP is one of my previous projects. It's based off of my project REAP, which was an ERC20 and was the first ever crypto project to have deflationary reflective rewards. This was made about 2 years ago, or REAP was, and REAP was extremely successful. It did 170x. It's still up over 200x. It's the token that you need to hold to get into the DAO and get access to the private pre-sales that I host, which are typically my projects, but also sometimes the projects of developers I work with. So that's the great thing about REAP and BREAP is they both have use cases that give incentive to hold, but while you're holding it, the supply is being decreased because 1% of every transaction is burned, and you're getting dividends. 1% of each transaction is distributed reflectively, which means you don't have to stake it, you don't have to claim it, it shows up right in your wallet. The great thing about it is, as you hold it, the supply is decreasing, you're getting more in your wallet, the mechanic that determines how much of each transaction tax you get is how much REAP you hold. So as you hold it, you're getting dibs, which increases your holdings, which makes it so the next transaction, you get a greater percentage of the next tax, and it allows for compound interest without having to rely on staking contracts or anything like that. So we created another use case for BREAP, which is if you hold BREAP, you unlock the different tiers of your referral bonuses. Drip is a system where you can have up to 15 tiers of downlines. Now, it's not a pyramid structure as some people have asked about. The reason why it's not a pyramid structure is you can only have a max of 15 levels, which means everybody can be at the top of their own team. There's not one wallet or a couple wallets that are at top of everything. It's everybody has the opportunity to be at the top of their own team, and every person in the team gets the same percentage of rewards. If you're 3 levels down in the team, you're getting a 10% referral bonus when it's your turn in line to get the 10% referral bonus, and the person who is at the top of the team gets a 10% referral bonus when it's their turn in line to get the team. The way it works is when someone does a deposit or a compound, the contract then looks at who is it that referred me. Do they have enough BREAP in their wallet to get a referral bonus from a direct referral, and that is 2 BREAP in their wallet? And were they the last person in line to get a referral bonus? If they were not the last person to get a referral bonus and they have 2 BREAP, they get the 10% referral bonus. The next time that person does a compound or does a deposit, the contract looks up and goes, was this person the last person to get the bonus? Yes, they were. So it doesn't matter how much BREAP they have. It will skip them and go to the person above them. And it will say, all right, this person is 2 levels up. Do they have 3 BREAP in their wallet? No, they don't have 3 BREAP in their wallet. Okay, skip them, go to the person above them. Does this person who's 3 levels up have 5 BREAP in their wallet? And were they the last person to get rewarded? No, they were not the last person to get rewarded. Yes, they have 5 BREAP in their wallet. They get that 10% referral bonus. So if people that are below you in your team don't have enough BREAP in their wallet, the referral bonus will skip them and go to you. It's important to have BREAP, and it's important even if you think that there's 5 people below me, so maybe it only makes sense to have a BREAP for the first couple levels, and we'll see how it plays out. You don't want to do that. You want to have enough for all those 5 levels, because potentially there's some people in your downline that don't have enough BREAP, and it's going to skip them. And you want to make sure when it skips them, you have enough BREAP to get that referral bonus. And even if it doesn't skip them, eventually it will be your turn and you're going to get that. There's no limit to how many direct referrals you do. So you want to do as many direct referrals as possible, and then the downlines kind of take care of themselves, because one person refers one person, that person refers a couple people. Now maybe one person doesn't, but the other person refers 5 people, and then one of them is a YouTuber and he ends up referring 100 people. And then so the downlines kind of snowball and take care of themselves. It's the direct referrals that take a little bit more energy, resources to get them, and there's no limit to how many you can have. It was important to include BREAP because it also makes it so people who join the system and aren't really paying attention and just join the system and are not being active, they're not going to get those referral bonuses. It's the people who are paying attention, who are getting the amount of BREAP they need, they're the ones that are getting the bonus. And that's what you want to reward. The people who are paying attention, who are onboarding capital, and who are allowing the system to grow. And also, just the fact that I included BREAP in this should make people confident when I create the next project that I'm not going to just leave Drip behind.
Right.
I'm going to include it in the ecosystem, because I've done that with every single project I've ever created. I've involved it into the greater ecosystem. We wanted to ensure that there wasn't a pyramid type structure where all of the rewards get funneled to the top. In our system, each player can have a max 15 downlines. They need to be net positive, meaning they need to have deposited more than they claim to ensure that they're being active in the system and not just draining the system based on commissions. And also, only one person in the upline can get rewarded per positive action. There are other systems which have a pyramid type structure where the higher you go up in the chain, the larger the commissions get. And there is no cap on how high these commissions go. So essentially all of the capital gets funneled to the top few players. In our system, you can only have a max of 15 downlines, which means every person in the system can be at the top of their own team
and only one player at a time gets rewarded per positive action, and everybody gets the same commission size. It's not a system where people at the top or people higher up get a larger commission. And this is important because number one, it means that it doesn't matter when you join the system, you have the same opportunity to profit from growing your team. The team building structure, as far as the rewards go, are agnostic to when you join and when you start building your team. It's also important because it doesn't allow people to self-refer and drain the system. There are other referral structures where you make a deposit, and then when you refer somebody else, you make a bonus based on a percentage of your deposit. And then there are other systems where you refer one person, you make a, say, 10% bonus off that referral. Then when they refer someone, you make a, say, 6% commission off theirs. Then when they refer someone, you make a 3% off theirs. And this creates a pyramid type structure, which is unsustainable, but more importantly, is exploitable because it allows people to self-refer, make one small deposit, and then self-refer themselves a bunch of times, and then make one very large deposit at the end, and then make 3% off that, 6% off that, 10% off that on their own wallets all the way up the chain. Our system, since only one person is rewarded per positive action, it means that there's no benefit to self-referring. Essentially, if you do try to self-refer, you'll end up paying more in taxes than what you would make in bonuses. So it's hardened like that, where if people do decide they want to try to do that, they're going to end up growing the system even more. So not only is it not a system where the higher you go up, the larger the commission you get, it's even more fair than that, where if you have a large team, 20% of the commission that you get is actually sent back down to your team. So people have jokingly called this a reverse pyramid structure because the people who are lower are actually getting a larger commission if they're active. It also offset the deposit, the tax that people pay on deposit, by 2.5%. So when you deposit, if you join an active team on that deposit, you're going to get 25% of the deposit back as a bonus. So this offsets the tax that you pay by 25%. And then if you refer someone to the system that deposits equal or more than you, you're going to get a 10% commission off that. So right off the start, for joining an active team and onboarding one person, you end up with a 2.5% ROI. Drip is a community project. If I was here by myself, created Drip and launched it, and there was no one else, no community, it wouldn't go anywhere. So community is just as much a part of it as I am. I'm honored to have everybody in the group building things. If you go into the Drip group and you check out the Rose commands, you'll see that there's multiple commands that will bring up links to projects and products that people have built for Drip. Charting software, stake tracking software, profit calculating and stake calculating software. There's all kinds of different tools that people have built, and that's amazing. I haven't seen anything like it. Obviously, some of the, you call them top 10, top 20 projects, like obviously Bitcoin, ETH, BNB, Solana, these projects, sure, they have a large community and they have a lot of active people. But we're coming up. Right now, we're the number 6 rated dApp on BSC. I think the Hex community is amazing. I was in Hex from day one. I would say that we were able to benefit from watching Hex and launching like maybe a year and a half, at least a year later. So we were able to learn what Hex did that was positive, what Hex did that could be improved upon, and we did improve upon it. It's in the details. There's a lot of projects that have team referral systems and have referral systems in general, but it's all the little things that we did that really set us apart. You know, for example, we have a net positive, net negative type of deposit system where in order to earn referral bonuses, you have to be net positive in deposits, which means you have to have claimed less than you deposit. But since referral bonuses are considered deposits, if the people that you referred deposit more than you claim, you are still net positive. Essentially, it rewards people for, of course, referring, but also staying active and doing airdrops and bringing on people that are going to be active as well. The main reason for that is because we want to discourage self-referring. So if you're self-referring, you're basically guaranteed to eventually have a negative deposit bonus, because you're just going to be claiming those referral bonuses off of your self-refer. If you're actually referring other people that are coming into the system, they're going to be compounding, they're going to be active, they're going to be referring people, which in turn gives you further downline referral bonuses, and it will keep you net positive. So it's just another way that we're discouraging self-referring and people trying to exploit the system. We're the only daily ROI platform that is absolutely not beneficial to self-refer. If you self-refer, you will in the end up paying more in taxes than you make in bonuses, and you will end up eventually being net negative and not even getting those referral bonuses of the people that you did legitimately refer. When you airdrop someone, you get the same addition to your net positive balance as if you deposited yourself. It allows you to grow your team, incentivize people joining your team, which in turn gets you referral bonuses and keeps you net positive. At the same time, your airdrop itself adds to your net positive status. We do have about 87% of all drip locked in the faucet, which is amazing. That's outperformed anything I could imagine. That's crazy to me. And that just shows the extreme confidence in the project of the people involved in it. And we see whales coming in every day, and they all get 100% locked in the faucet. 87% in the faucet. We have another 7 to 10% or something in the reservoir as well. We have like 4 or 5% of tokens that are in wallets. It's such a small amount of tokens that are actually in people's wallets that could be sold right now. The reason why 100% of tokens could never be locked up is because the way our custom automated market maker works is it starts with an amount of drip and an amount of BNB. When people buy drip, they're buying a percentage of the drip from the liquidity pool and adding BNB. This changes the rate of drip to BNB in the contract. The more BNB there are to drip in the contract, the higher the BNB price of drip. Whatever the price of BNB is in USD, that's how that's evaluated. It's impossible to buy 100% of the drip from the automated market maker. How it works is it's a curve. So the larger your position, the more difficult it is to extract more drip from the contract. And that's what that price impact slippage is all about. You can never buy 100% of the drip from the liquidity pool. So that means there will always be some drip available in the liquidity pool. Just the less drip that is in the liquidity pool, the higher the price is. So the more get locked up, the less there is to be in the liquidity pool, and the higher the price is relative to the BNB in the pool. And if we get to a point where there's less than one drip in the liquidity pool, people can buy fractions of it. That's why there's 18 decimals. As investors, we want expensive drip, except for all the people who are praying every day for a correction so they can buy a ton more. But for the most part, people who are in it want the price to go up. It's just impossible the way that automated market makers work. There can only be less drip available, and that just means a higher price. Whenever I go on streams or anything like that, and I talk about the importance of having a decentralized liquidity pool. Not one person can be in charge of the liquidity pool. That's a security risk. You need a deep decentralized liquidity pool. And I think the best way to do that is to just incentivize people to add liquidity. So the model that we're using to do that is we have the Reservoir, which is rewarding people in a great way to add liquidity by taking a percentage of BNB that is added to the liquidity pool. We make it very easy as well. Typically, if you're trying to add liquidity to a project, you need to buy the token of the project, you need to have the base project, you need to use a separate contract, and you need to decide how much of each you want to put in, and then you need to set a rate and put it in. With ours, all you have to do is choose the amount of BNB that you want to put into the liquidity pool. It will automatically take half that BNB, buy drip for you, and at the given price that it is now, set it at that rate. There's no window, like if in Uniswap V3 you need to put in a window and all these externalities which make it complicated to do. We make it very easy to add liquidity on our native platform. Now, as far as other exchanges, we're incentivizing people to do that through our partnerships with yield farms. And the best way you can teach people to do these things is to show them that they can make money doing it and to incentivize them that way. Because of the tax system, because of the way that tokens, when they're staked, are being removed from circulation, because a percentage of every transaction is locked up in the liquidity pool, and because the incentives are all built to keep money in the system, we only need to keep up a minimal amount of growth to keep the price growing or relatively stable. And we've built in fail stops as well, such as the whale tax, that ensure that no one account can withdraw more than 5% of the capital at a time. So we have a cap essentially where if you try to withdraw more than 10% of the supply of drip from the liquidity pool, there's a 50% tax on it. So you get capped out at 10%, plus there's a 50% tax on it. So essentially you're only getting out 5%. Now, as the price of drip grows, that 5% will be more and more and more, and less people will hit that cap. So far, we've only had one person to begin with hit that cap, and it's someone that was able to onboard a lot of capital. So essentially, to be one of these big players that can withdraw a lot of capital from the system, you would have had to onboard a lot of capital and a lot of players in the system. There's fail stops to stop people just from compounding exponentially and being able to withdraw that way without adding more to the system. So the only way that you're going to withdraw a massive amount of capital from the system, and by massive, I mean 5% of the total supply, is by doing a lot of onboarding of capital. Now, we're allowing for the growth of the platform through adding additional use cases. And we see we've already had a couple partnerships. There's a project right now that is building a essentially poker tournaments, and they're going to be hosting poker tournaments for drip. We're having the Focus Visual thing coming up, which is going to onboard a ton of people. At least that's what it's projected to do. That's what all of the numbers are looking like from the past performance of this promotional and stream management company I've seen in the past from their previous promotional events. We have this NFT strategy game that's coming up. Currently, right now, a good friend of mine is building a multi-layer yield farm, which is going to have drip pools. You see that we're adding more and more and more use cases for drip. And the way that drip is structured, you only need a minimal amount of growth to keep up with the rate at which people can withdraw. And we're going to continue to do that by creating new use cases, by utilizing the fail stops that we already built into the system, and by continuing to market. I was just on a channel that has hundreds of thousands of subscribers, a major comedian who has been on Joe Rogan, who has a current Netflix special out right now. I was just on his channel just a couple days ago. I spent about 20% of the time talking about drip as well. We're tiny right now. We make up such a tiny amount of the BSC investor base. And the BSC investor base makes up such a tiny part of the crypto space. And the crypto space is such a tiny part of the market as a whole. The crypto market is growing and growing and growing exponentially now, and we are growing with it. I think Binance is a solid company. I think that they have the capital behind them to continue to make adjustments. So I think BNB in the long term is a good investment. We're paired primarily in BNB. I think the Binance Smart Chain is going to continue to develop and grow. I think alone with the protocol that Drip has in place, if it was just to allow it to do its thing with its team, with its onboarding, and with the natural organic growth of the crypto market, we will be able to keep up and grow and maintain Drip. Now with the additional marketing and use cases and the fail safes that we have in to ensure that no one person can withdraw a large amount, and the people that are withdrawing large amounts have that large amount because they onboarded dividends multiples more than what they're able to withdraw through referrals and through just depositing on their own. Drip is going to continue to grow. I mean, I don't think anybody is questioning that Drip will continue to grow. The growth that we need to maintain is not anything close to being towards the high end of what we are able to do or what the crypto market in general is going to. I'm confident that we're going to continue to grow and Drip will continue to maintain performance for a long time. The amount of money that you're earning through compound interest and through the faucet makes it so the price, as long as it's relatively stable, is kind of irrelevant. It's not irrelevant because, of course, price appreciation, you're going to make more money, but it doesn't really matter when you get in, because no matter where the price is, as long as it's relatively stable, you're going to make a ton of profit. As far as people not being sure if they can refer, the thing is that there's a lot of new people coming into the system and the people have a lot of questions. And we actually have a special chat on Telegram just for people that are having technical difficulties because they're new to crypto and they have questions. I would suggest that people that aren't sure if they'll be able to refer people or not, spend some time in there, help people out. And you'll find that people want to join your team if you go out of your way to help them and help them onboard. The buddy system ensures that anybody who joins the faucet needs to be referred by somebody. So this means if you're there being active in the chat, helping people out, you're going to get referrals. One of the reasons why I said now is the best time to get in, maybe the best time to get in ever, is because we've had this correction. Price is not at all-time highs anymore, but it's going up now, and it's already proven itself to be a working, successful, one of the best platforms in the space. When you were getting in, before it did this massive, crazy pump, this was people taking a big risk because the system hadn't proved itself yet. Now, we've had a nice correction, and you can get back in at a low rate relative to the all-time high, and the system has proven itself to work, to be a working model that pays out very well. So this is why I say now is probably the best time to get in ever, because you're getting in at a relatively low price, and the system has proven itself now. It's gone for over 100 days, and it continues to prosper. It doesn't matter what APY you promise if you're paying it out by just diluting the supply like infinitely. You might as well not be giving out rewards at all.
Well, like the Federal Reserve.
Yeah. The main difference, of course, is that we can, with something like that model, they're changing the rules every couple years. They're dipping into it. It's fully trust dependent. Where in ours, all the protocol is built in, immutable from the start. The rules are projected into the future. They're trustless, and we can take the best from those models, leave out all the things that create corruption, and just set those rules into the future forever. I'm very excited about our partnership with Focus Visual because they have about 30 or 40 different very large streamers that are on OnlyFans and on Twitch and on a couple other platforms. And their focus is mostly on people that are paying for content. So they have hundreds of thousands individually and millions, many millions combined, of people who are paying for their content currently. And what we're going to do for them is create another type of subscription model where people can join their team. And for being a member of their team, they'll get exclusive access to content. So this will be content that they'll be releasing just to their team, to a private group that we'll be setting up. At first, we'll use the infrastructure of Telegram to do this, and eventually, fairly shortly, we'll create our own dApp for this. But if you join their team, you'll then get a link. Essentially, anybody could click the link, so it'll just be a link in their description. But if you're not in their team, when you click the link and it asks you to connect your wallet to the site, it will then look to cross-reference your wallet with the chain to see if you're holding drip tokens in the faucet. If you're not doing that, then it won't give you the link to the private group. So essentially, it's like a com bot, or there's a few other bots that are doing this for DAO groups. I use it for the Reap DAO. Yeah. And this will be a way that people who are currently paying a monthly subscription for exclusive content will be able to get this exclusive content and not have to be forking money over every month. They'll essentially just putting money into a protocol that allows them to earn passive income. And the content creators benefit from it because they're going to make more from referral bonuses than they make off their monthly subscription protocol that they're using now. Most of them charge $5, $2, the high end $10 a month. And we all know that people who are part of Drip that have a following, some of our people in Drip, they'll have a couple thousand people on their YouTube channel, a couple thousand subscribers, and they've made 6 figures in Drip. So we know that the rewards that you make from Drip are exponentially greater than you would make from a subscription model to produce and distribute content through the current models that people are using, OnlyFans and Twitch, etc. So it's going to be a process because we're going after people who have very, very large followings, but they're not specifically crypto following, because we all know that really there aren't many people that are in crypto or have crypto channels that have millions and millions of subscribers. It's just not a thing. There's a small handful of people who have hundreds of thousands of subscribers who are producing crypto content. It's going to be a process, an education process, but Focus Visual, they are a firm that manages streamers, but also does promotion. So they have 2 different models of clients that they use. They have one who they call essentially their exposure or their wide scope clients, and these are people that have millions and millions of followers on Twitter and on various platforms, and they're producing content, but because their audiences are so long, they're not having a one-to-one direct kind of connection to their audience. So they're doing a lot of the kind of promotion that you see on Twitter, where these accounts that have millions and millions of followers, and they're doing some private personal posts, but a lot of also promotional posts. And this is mostly just to get the word out there and to get people seeing our product. They're all in the same circle. All of these content creators are kind of in the same circle of Latin America, South American based content creators. These first exposure type clients are going to be making posts here and there about Drip. And what this will do is, in the next phase, which will come a couple weeks after, we're going to have the streamers who are on Twitch and OnlyFans who have a more direct connection with their audience, actually on there doing the education, doing the onboarding, offering content and doing that. And the plan is, and this is a model that they've used for promotion many times in the past, is that when they bring it up to their followers will think, oh yeah, I saw this posted here, I saw this posted, and they will have seen it before because of the larger exposure clients have put it out there and got exposure. And this is a model that they've used before that's been successful for them. They feel from their earlier numbers that they'll be able to onboard at least 5% of their user base. We're looking at tens of millions of people that are in their user base. Yeah, that's many multiples more than the people that we currently have invested in Drip. It excites me not just because it will bring a lot of capital and a lot of investors, also because it's an innovative new model for content monetization. And I think now we see with the major censorship that is going on basically all platforms, we see it with PayPal and we see it with MasterCard and Stripe and all these, they're owned by the same couple parent companies. They're shutting down people's payment processors just because they have a difference in opinion. And I think it's great to create decentralized payment models for content. I'm excited to be able to start paving the way on that, with Drip as the structure to allow us to do that. The NFT game is striking right to the heart of DeFi, where there's less people, but we're creating something that people in this space will be extremely excited about. So it'll get a very large percentage of those people that we're getting exposure of this project to. It's essentially a battle idle game. It's based on BSC. It's on the BSC chain. You'll deposit BNB, and when you deposit BNB, you get an egg. And this egg is a monster that essentially can generate mana. I'm not going to get into the lore of the game, but just to make it brass tacks, talk about the actual functions of the project. These eggs essentially generate something called mana, which will be a token. The token will have a different name when it's launched. This mana allows you to evolve your monster. And as your monster evolves from an egg to a baby to an adult, it becomes more efficient at mining this token. This token can be used to buy more eggs or to buy eggs that aren't essentially mining eggs. They're eggs for battle monsters. Now, these battle monsters can also be evolved. And what they do is they have an attack, a defense, and essentially a looting rating. When you have a little army of your monsters going, what you can do is attack other people in the game. And if your attack rating is higher than their defense rating, then you can steal their mana. And the amount of mana that you steal from them is based on your looting rating. So it allows you to set up really cool models and strategies to playing the game. Monsters have different values. So one monster has a very high defense rating, but not a high looting rating and not a high attack rating. And one monster might have a high attack and a high looting. One monster might just be good at looting, like a stealth monster. It allows you to set up these strategies and these teams in a way where you can decide how you want to play the game. You could decide to play a game where you're buying the most efficient monsters that are good at creating mana, and then buying mostly defensive monsters to protect that mana. Or you could decide to get some monsters to get the production going enough to build up a team of attack and looting monsters, and then focus mostly on just stealing the mana from other people and not producing it so much yourself. Essentially, once a day, you can take that mana, put it in a treasury box, and exchange it back out for BNB. So this is essentially how you cash out of the game. You can also buy items with the game that give your monsters different powers. You can buy an item for the next 2 hours. You can 2x your monster's attack rating. Or for the next 2 hours, you're invincible to attacks. There's also XP points that build up, experience points. And you gain these experience points from having battles in the game. And when you gain these experience points, you can use them to buy talents for your monsters. And these talents are essentially ways to create variance in your strategy. The big part about the NFT game is if you're going to create an NFT game, I think what makes NFT games popular and gives them the kind of volume that we're seeing in Axie Infinity and other big platforms that are getting more volume than even ETH is getting now, is you need to have a game that allows for people who don't have a lot of capital but have a lot of time and have the ability to strategize to grind the game and make a fairly low risk return on their investment for putting in that time and for learning the strategies of the game. And then those people who are willing to put in that time can then sell those NFTs on a secondary market to people who don't have a lot of time, who don't want to spend time grinding, but want to get right into the higher risk, high reward gameplay. So essentially how it will work is you're evolving these NFTs, and you can use BNB for some of the monsters and just go right into just buying them and buying mana for them with BNB, not having to mine the mana. But you don't have to do that. You could also start off with just the starting payment to get that initial egg, and then grow mana from that, and then use that mana to evolve that monster, then buy other eggs, evolve those eggs, and really start with just that one initial payment and grind up from there. Once you have these monsters evolve, you can then sell them on a secondary market to people who want to get right into the higher risk, high reward gameplay and are cool with dropping a few $1,000s right up front because they know there's a high probability that they're going to make a large return on their investment without having to sit through the grinding. What we see with projects like Axie Infinity and some of these other big projects is there's a huge market for this in the third world. There's a huge portion of the Philippines who are making a living. They're making their salary from Axie Infinity. They're spending all day grinding and playing this game to earn these NFTs and to earn the love potions, which they're then selling on a secondary market to people who want to take the higher risk, higher return play to buy those potions and buy those NFTs and then breed them, hoping that they're going to make a larger return. The most valuable asset to someone with money is time. And the most valuable asset to someone with time is money. And this is because if you already have the money, then you're often are in a situation where you're in a high demand job or some high demand situation where you don't have the time to be grinding, and you can use your money to essentially buy other people's time, because time is the one thing that which is extremely limited. But if you don't have a lot of money, you can grind, and that's going to be your greatest asset, is putting in that time and education and learning the strategies and putting in that time. And then you can essentially sell your time to the people who have the money to buy it. And eventually, if you keep grinding like this, hopefully you'll be the person that is then using your money because you've been able to stack up enough to buy other people's time. So the way that this plays into Drip is the micropayments for items and some of the various things that you can purchase in game to make your grinding shorter and to give you essentially a multiplier and advantage to the game can be paid for exclusively with Drip. Here's another major use case for Drip, and it's going to introduce people who are into the NFT space that have no clue about Drip, that are just getting into it because they're interested in the NFT game, will now see that they can have an advantage in the game by buying and getting involved with Drip. It's a standalone system and a standalone game, so Drip by itself is a great product that doesn't need the NFT game, but it adds a great new use case for it, and the NFT game is a standalone product. That's a great game. It doesn't need Drip, but it benefits from Drip by essentially onboarding the people from Drip to join the game because it's giving an exclusive use case for Drip holders. The NFT game will onboard people to Drip because they'll see, oh, you can use Drip in this game and I'll be able to get this and this and this exclusively with Drip. And then the people who are in Drip will get onboarded to the game because now they have a cool new use case for their Drip. So, it's a win-win for everybody. And I think the NFT space is great. It opens the door to a ton of new opportunities. But if you're just essentially creating a JPEG with no use case, I don't see any value in that. The only time that there's a value specifically to that is if it's created by an artist that you would be willing to pay a premium because it's an original from that artist, rather than buying another on-chain copy that someone just took a screenshot of, put it on chain, and is selling for a discounted rate. The only way that it makes sense to buy the original is because you want something from that artist and you want to support that artist. That's why it makes sense to me to do something with the Focus Visual people on the NFT front, because they have a user base that wants to support them, that wants to get involved. So for me, NFTs play two roles here. It's in the game, the NFT game, which is important because the game itself brings intrinsic values to the NFTs, because the NFTs allow you to play the game and essentially make capital and have fun in the game. And the NFTs on the content creator side have value because they're created by and represent the art of a content creator that people support and want to get behind and want to buy their art. It's going to be a couple months. We went all out. I onboarded a developer. He's built games before, not just on-chain games, but actually mostly he's built mobile games. He built battle mobile games. They're like tower defense type games. And I brought him on because it's not too hard to deploy NFTs. It's not too hard to just create a game. It's very hard to create a balanced game, especially a battle game. I know that there's been games before that have launched in the past that have had a dozen characters or 24 characters, but shortly, a couple of days after launch, people realized all you have to do is spam by this one character. He's just overpowered, and that's it. And it ruins the whole purpose of the game, because then at that point, there's no strategy, there's no gameplay. It's just whoever has the most money and can spam by this character the most is going to win. So I brought on a developer that has built many of these battle games for high-level production companies. We should have an extremely well-balanced, extremely fun game. We got with a company through him that does animation and art for a lot of the big mobile games. We're also going to be getting some really cool animation and art for our NFTs that are on par with some high-level games. When you look at projects like Axie Infinity, especially the second and third most popular games, they've outgrown their ability and their resources on their server. So 90% of the game isn't functional. We really just don't have the kind of infrastructure to do that yet in crypto on chain. So what I'm looking to do is build a turn-based game which still has all the fun and all the strategy, but we're not doing the heavy resource inefficient battle scenes. Will essentially be not like a full animated battle scene like some of the other ones have tried to do, because they always fail. And I would rather have something that is just as fun, but we make sure that it is running and functional from day one, and we're going to ensure this. I believe we're going to have one of the best NFT games in the space, and Drip is going to be a major part of it, because some of the items that you will need to play the game will be purchasable only by Drip. It's very exciting. We're a couple months away. We're almost done with the contracts. The art is being done, the front end's being done. There's a lot of other projects. They raise capital, they'll launch a farm or they'll launch a token and then say that the NFTs and the games are coming. Or maybe they launch an NFT farm and say the games are coming. And then we all know 90 whatever percent of the time, those games never come. We're not going to do that. Whenever I launch a project, I launch a fully functional, fully operational project.
Yeah,
and I never raised capital until the project's finished being built. I actually started building this game a long time ago, before BC, when it was just Tron and ETH essentially for smart contracts. And the gas prices were just too expensive on the ERC20 network to do it. And Tron, I didn't want to launch on Tron. I'm not a big fan of Tron. So we held back, and then BSC became a thing. And I was like, oh, cool, I'll launch on BSC. And then NFTs really blew up. And I was just like, if I'm going to do this, I want to have it a full-on NFT game. And then we had that first big NFT wave where it wasn't really NFTs with a solid use case. It was NFTs like Unisocks and Punks and these things, which have shown to have their value, but it's more of a bubble fad type of thing. Now we're having this second wave of NFTs, and this time it's coming with the use case, with the game, with the utility. So now's the time to do it. We were able to get it done fairly quickly. It's because this is something that if you knew how long we've been working on it, it's been on and off the shelf for about a year. It's just now is the right time to do it. And now we have the capital to build it out right and to make it really a competitor with the top NFT projects in the space. And I have the capital to fund it myself before raising any capital. So that's what we'll do. I'm going to fund the whole thing out of pocket myself. Then once it's fully built, we'll start fundraising essentially just to provide liquidity for it. We have a partnership with a good friend of mine who is about to launch a yield farm. This is a yield farm that is really cool. The way it works is essentially there's a 14-day period where the farm mints out at a fairly high rate of a reward token. This reward token can then be used in the pre-sale of the second layer, where you can buy into the second layer using BNB or stablecoin. But if you use this farm reward token that you farm, you get a multiplier. So you get a higher percentage of these tokens for your capital. And this second layer has a governance and a yield farm protocol where, as a governor of the project, you're essentially buying a share ownership of the project. So you get a share of the fees. So we're essentially decentralizing the ownership of a yield farm. And we're the first project on BSC to do this. It's extremely exciting. I am working with him to develop it. I'm not the lead developer of it, but I am hands-on all the way in the project. And I am going to make sure they get proper promotion, their raise goes well. It's a very, very cool concept. And they're going to have drip pools. So they're going to have low tax, high reward drip pools for people that add liquidity to drip. This is going to be BNB, but we'll have a higher multiplier for stablecoin liquidity. I think it's important that we have not necessarily more stablecoin liquidity than BNB liquidity, but just in general, we have more stablecoin liquidity because drip is growing at a fast rate. And we've had situations in the past where drip was outperforming BNB, drip was outperforming the whole market. But since we're paired primarily with BNB, BNB took a crash. BNB crashed 30% or whatever it crashed. And people saw the USD value of drip going down. Even though we were outperforming all the other markets, since we're getting our USD rate based on how many drip are paired with BNB and what is the USD value of BNB, if the USD value of BNB goes down, the USD value of drip will also go down. Assuming we are not growing faster than the amount of BNB is going down. BNB flash crashed. So it's essentially impossible to flash crash up unless you're like maybe right at launch, you could do something similar to that. But when a project is hundreds of days old, you don't get these flash crashes up. It caused some people who just saw the USD value of drip going down to sell drip for BNB. And all they're doing now is selling into a token, which is dropping faster. Technically, it makes no sense to do, But, the vast majority of people don't know how to look at the technicals and how to look at these metrics and make an informed decision. They panic, and that's what happens. People panic. It ended up hurting the drip price. Now, if we had been paired in DAI, for example, when BNB did the flash crash, we would have just kept going up in USD value because we wouldn't have been paired with BNB. We wouldn't have had that pullback, and we wouldn't have had the panic selling. It's important because we have the metrics and we have the mechanics to really outpace the rest of the market. I think it's important that we have a significant amount of our liquidity in stable coins so people can see our performance alone separated from the rest of the market and allow us to pull away and not have the flash crashes that are going on in the rest of the market make people panic sell our token, which is outperforming everything at the time. It makes no sense, but that's how people are. So we need to do our best to educate people. About how do we educate people? We incentivize their education by rewarding them. Another major idea that I have that I will be building out eventually is a type of lending platform where essentially you can lend out your tokens on different lending platforms by staking them on those lending platforms through our protocol. Nice. When you do that, you can essentially take out a loan against your stake in the lending platform now. So it's like a rehypothecation of your stake. And now you can use this loan, which is in the form of a stable coin, to trade, to put back into a yield farm to farm more, to do whatever you want with it essentially. When it comes time, say you traded with it, you made a bunch of money, now you want to remove your funds from the loan, you just pay back that loan, and when you pay back that loan you took out against it, now you release your capital plus your profit plus the interest you made. So it allows you to basically access capital that you have in lending platforms making money for you and allow you to trade and do everything with it. You're just taking on the additional risk of having it rehypothecated. The rehypothecation is something that central banks do. It's something that essentially only the government and people that they don't call them the government, but are directly controlled by the government have the power to do. And I would like to give that power to everybody and decentralize it. And we would be able to do that through this system. It's an amazing system, and also this loan would be able to be paid back through the interest that you're making on the yield farm as well. So say you end up trading with that capital and losing it, now you don't have it, your funds are stuck in the lending platform because you can't pay back the loan. Now you just have to wait for your interest on the lending platform to pay off your loan. Now it's paid off, now you can get your principal back. There's some other projects that have done things that are close to this, but they're very, very limited on what you can do with the loan that they give you and your options for staking. And there's a bunch of other things that I know could be improved on. The model that I'm talking about is going to be a one-of-a-kind revolution in the space, I believe, a revolution in lending and yield farming. And that's something that I'm prepared to build, but right now my full focus is on Drip and this NFT game that's coming up. We move faster than a lot of other dev teams because we don't make announcements of announcements. That's what a lot of dev teams will do, is they'll get something ready and then spend weeks announcing it. A lot of times they won't even have it ready, but they'll announce it and then it takes them forever to develop it. With Drip, we never announce something until it's ready to go. So when the development's done, or if it's a partnership, they already have us added to the website. They already have all the contracts finished. They've been audited. And there's a countdown ready to go live. That's when it gets announced. And because we don't spend a lot of time announcing things before they're even ready, we're able to put out things faster. At least they feel faster. Because when we make the announcement, typically within a week, it's live. This part of my legacy. I was an advisor and a part of other development teams, and I've also been a full-time trader for the past 8+ years. I already had wealth. I was already all set for the rest of my life before I got into developing. And for me, I see developing as my legacy and really trying to change the space. So I never do something to make a quick return. I look at everything I publish in the crypto space as what can I do to move the space forward, and what can I do to really cement my legacy in the space, because that's what matters to me. I know my partner BB, he has the same motivations as me, and we've been working together for like over a year now. We built a lot of great things together. There's guys like Bartertown, there's guys like Dog Pound Thomas, there's guys like Black Sheep. There's a lot of guys, Daily Guru, all the admins, Angel, Eternal. I could list a bunch of people. It's been a team effort. It's not me, it's not purely my vision, but I still look at it as my legacy. So I treat it that way when I launch things. I see Drip outperforming BNB while paying out 1% compound interest. I see it being one of, if not the greatest performing platform there is on BSC, if not in crypto. I don't think in the long run, it is a help to have a doxxed dev. I think with the current gray area of regulation, the continuous changing of regulation, I think having a doxxed dev is more of a vulnerability than a benefit. Someone like myself can stand on the merits of their work and their long history in the space operating under this name more than a name. It's very easy to buy an ID and to get a KYC. I could spend a couple $1,000s right now and have a full ID, full KYC. I could have my cousin come on screen. I could use his ID. There's no way that anybody can confirm that that was me, even if I gave my ID. There has to be that element of trust there if you're going to put trust in the developer. I say put your trust in the contracts which are trustless. If you need to trust the developer, which I do think is important because this is a fully operational project that does not rely on me. I could die right now, Drip still functions on. We do have some cool things planned in the future. Go look on my Discord. Go look at all the other groups I'm a part of. Go look at the projects that I've developed. Go look at the projects I've advised, some of the largest projects in the space. BlockClout, TrustSwap, MahaDAO, RioDAO. I've worked as an admin for the largest venture capitalist group in crypto. I handled the pre-sale raised millions of dollars for Black Dragon's DAO group, which is a DAO group that's been around since 2016 when they were starting the first initial IPOs. They were involved. I've worked for and raised capital for dozens and dozens and dozens, over 30 projects where I've raised tens of millions of dollars for them. I've been working in the space for about 9 years now. 6 years as a developer and about 3 years before I was developing, trading and helping people learn how to trade. I never charged people for trading education, not because you can't do it right. You can do it right and charge for education, but the majority of people don't. The majority of people are selling repackaged garbage projects and garbage systems. I saw that and I had been a successful trader. I was trading Bitcoin and Forex at the time. This is like 9 years ago. And I had a bunch of friends coming to me who were interested in learning to trade. I decided that I would start a Discord group and start just posting my trades and start answering questions for them. And I was active in some other communities as well. Before long, I had 10 people, 20 people, 100 people joining my Discord group. We're all talking about learning how to trade, the majority of them trying to learn my system and just learn about trading from me. And I did that for years until early 2018. Before early 2013, I was developing indicators. I was developing trading systems, which I never sold. I always released open source because I made my money trading with them and using them. Then in early 2018, a friend that I knew that was a developer wanted to host a pre-sale. I got invited to a group to be part of hosting this pre-sale. Since then, I just leveraged my connections in the space to get connected with more developers. And since I had a knowledge of developing and of markets, which is something that's actually relatively rare in the space. A lot of developers don't have a good understanding of trading and markets. And a lot of people who have an understanding of trading and markets don't have a good understanding of developing. So I kind of had an interesting set of skills that I could leverage that got me involved as in advisor roles and hosting a lot of these pre-sales. So I did that for years. I did that for about 3 years. I don't create pump and dumps. I create projects that are here for the long term and can be built on to be part of a larger ecosystem. People can see that my word has been solid and I've been doing exactly what I said I was going to do and have done for years. And I like building great things. That's what it's about for me now. I've been a multi-millionaire in the space for years now. I'm not interested in cash grabs. I've never been interested in cash grabs. I've never needed to do a cash grab. Drip is just one major step along the way to creating this great ecosystem. Maybe I should just say Brad Pitt, Fight Club Brad Pitt, and let people imagine, right?